There have been wicked people in the world who look at Leviticus to justify modern-day slavery. Like those wicked and ignorant people, Ryan reads the words slave and master, and that's it. End of story. But that's not the end of it. These people look at the word slave through a modern-day lens. You must look at it through historic and biblical context.
All right, let's see it.
For example, the Bible speaks of unicorns. We think of this, but many, many years ago, unicorn was used to describe this.
So this is not quite accurate. The Hebrew Bible neither refers to a rhinoceros nor a unicorn. It refers to a re'em, which most likely refers to a now extinct type of ox. But between the 3rd and the 1st centuries BCE, when the Hebrew Bible was being translated into Greek, that reference was not well understood, and so the Greek translators of the Septuagint rendered monokeros, which is a Greek term that refers to a mythical creature understood to inhabit the plains of Persia that had been described by naturalists since the 5th century BCE as an animal that had the body of a horse but had a horn coming out of the middle of its head that was 2 to 3 feet long and could be black or could be white, red, and black, or could be other colors. Now, when the New Testament was composed, that was the Bible for the authors of the New Testament. So they understood the Bible to refer to unicorns, although they never repeat that reference. When the Septuagint is translated into Latin, they use one of two different terms. They use rhinoceros in many places, but in the 4 occurrences of the word in the Psalms, they carry through the notion of the unicorn, this mythical creature. When we get to English translations of the Bible, they largely retreat to unicorn. So that's why we have this reference to a mythical creature in the Bible. Didn't refer to a unicorn, didn't refer to a rhinoceros either. It was probably a now extinct type of ox.
You see, slaves were a class of people during biblical times. There were different types of slaves. Those who were kidnapped and forced into slavery, which is slavery as we know it today. But there were also slaves who sold themselves to pay off debt or because they could not survive on their own. And sometimes they sold themselves for life.
So this is either a naive or an intentional misrepresentation of the status of slaves in early Israel by dichotomizing slavery as either being voluntary debt slavery or chattel slavery resulting from kidnapping. This creator can then say all chattel slavery is explicitly prohibited in the Hebrew Bible because Exodus 21:16 explicitly prohibits kidnapping a man to sell him into slavery. However, the scholarship overwhelmingly agrees that this is about kidnapping a free Israelite man and also has nothing to do with the approved and endorsed system of chattel slavery, which is discussed in Leviticus 25, which talks about taking foreign people in battles, which is not kidnapping, or purchasing foreign peoples from foreign dealers. And kidnapping there is not within the scope of that perspective. And so this creator is misrepresenting how the Bible describes slavery because by this rhetorical sleight of hand, they can make it seem like all chattel slavery is already prohibited, and the exact opposite is true. Chattel slavery of foreigners is explicitly endorsed and approved.
Let's look at how the Bible refers to forced slavery. Exodus 3:9. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppress them. Forced slavery is referred to as a form of oppression.
So this is another rhetorical sleight of hand where this creator just arbitrarily insists that the word oppression here in Exodus 3:9, lachatz, refers to and is interchangeable with and synonymous with any kind of forced slavery. But there's no case to make for that from the Hebrew Bible. The word lachatz is not the word that is used to refer to the Egyptians' imposition of forced corvée labor on the Israelites in the beginning of Exodus. And when it describes that forced labor with words used to refer to slavery, it always qualifies it as well as being harsh, as being ruthless, as being oppressive. And forced corvée labor is not what the majority of the Hebrew Bible understands by the concept of chattel slavery. Chattel slavery was associated just with a household. It was just someone doing their chores and assisting in their agricultural production. And it could be oppressive if the master was oppressive or ruthless, but the slavery itself was not considered to be oppressive. It was not lachatz. It was certainly not the forced corvée labor that was imposed upon the Israelites in the beginning of Exodus. So there's no case to make for this notion that oppression equals all forced slavery. That's just more rhetoric intended to try to cut off any case to make that the Bible endorses and approves of chattel slavery, which it indisputably does.
Oppression is mentioned a few more times in the Bible. Write these down to check for yourself. Israelites were forbidden to oppress people.
So we've got a few problems here. The first is the presupposition of the univocality of the Bible, which this creator presupposes from beginning to end in this video. And that is the notion that every last syllable of the Bible all speaks with the exact same single, unified, consistent perspective. And it manifestly does not. There is no plausible case to make for the univocality of the Bible. It is just a dogma that one can only choose to accept. Additionally, this creator is relying on English translation and the use of some form of oppress or oppression across all these passages. But in the Hebrew, they don't use the same word. They don't use the same word that is used in Exodus 3:9. They don't use the same words that are used to describe the imposition of corvée labor in the beginning of Exodus. These passages all refer to different concepts. None of them can be argued to refer specifically and unilaterally to forced slavery. There's also a typo. It's not Exodus 1:7, it's Exodus 1:17. And this creator in another video argues that Isaiah's insistence there that we relieve oppression therefore means there can be no forced slavery. And that's not an argument that passes muster in any way, shape, or form. But we can look at Leviticus 25 and we can see a distinction being drawn between the treatment of debt slaves and the treatment of chattel slaves, because it explicitly tells people in Leviticus 25 that the debt slave should not be treated as a slave. They should not be ruled over harshly. They should be treated as an employee or as a sojourner or a refugee because they are your brother, because debt slaves are Israelites. And then it goes on to say, however, the people you buy from foreigners, the people taken in battle, those are property. Those are chattel slaves. You can buy them and sell them. You can pass them down as inheritance. It explicitly calls them property, and it contrasts the treatment of the debt servant with the treatment of this property. So this creator doesn't have a case to make.